The skies of Rigel 7 were a constant, shimmering purple. The planet, nestled comfortably in the third quadrant of the Persad galaxy, had long been isolated due to the highly territorial and intelligent creatures that thrived there. The Vrannak, an apex predator species, had ruled the planet unchallenged for eons. With sleek muscular bodies, triple-jointed limbs, and razor-sharp teeth designed for tearing through flesh, they were the very definition of unyielding power. Every other creature that had dared to set foot on Rigel 7 had been torn to shreds in mere minutes. And then the humans came. Captain Tharen had been one of the first Vralians to witness their arrival, a moment he would relive countless times in the quiet of his quarters. Humanity's spacecraft had slipped through their planetary defense systems like a needle through silk, landing brazenly in the middle of a Vrannak nesting ground. Tharen and his squad had held their breath, expecting screams and carnage any second. But that was when the unimaginable happened. Instead of chaos, the humans stepped out of their metallic transport and surveyed their surroundings with wide eyes and open hands. The leader among them, a scruffy-looking man named Conrad, smiled in awe as he spotted a Vrannak prowling toward him, growling low and baring its jagged fangs. Tharen tightened his grip on his weapon, ready to call in reinforcements to rescue what would surely be a doomed attempt at communication. But Conrad did something no one expected. He pulled something out of his pocket. A small, round object. Something from his planet, no doubt. Tharen watched in horror as the human lobbed the strange, colorful thing in front of the Vrannak. It bounced, rolling to a halt before the predator's nose, and the creature paused, sniffing cautiously. Conrad took a step forward, holding out a second one. He grinned and made what Tharen recognized as a friendly noise in his language. "Hey girl, you like that? Got more where it came from." The Vrannak, surprisingly, did not attack. Instead, it sniffed, took a cautious lick, then a bite. Then, to the shock of every Vralian observing, it chuffed in what appeared to be mild satisfaction, and took a step closer to the human, its sharp gaze softening ever so slightly. Tharen and his squad mates exchanged looks, their frills flushed in disbelief. "These creatures, they're supposed to be apex predators," Tharen whispered, his voice thick with frustration. "They're cunning and deadly, not domesticated." A Vralian to his left, Lieutenant Corval, chittered in nervous agreement, yet the human is unscathed. Over the next several days, Tharen and his team watched, dumbfounded, as the humans continued their interactions. Conrad and his team had introduced a variety of treats from their home planet, each one yielding more success than the last. Small, hardened discs of protein, dried strips of meat, and a concoction called peanut butter. These gifts were received with more than mere tolerance. The Vrannak began to gather around the humans, curious and astonishingly friendly. Eventually, Tharen's superiors ordered him to make direct contact with the humans, demanding an explanation. He volunteered himself as the envoy, mostly to satisfy his own curiosity. That's how he found himself standing, disarmed and tense, in front of Conrad and his team one cold Rigelian morning. The humans greeted him with an easygoing warmth, their eyes wide with interest as he approached. Conrad extended his hand in a gesture that, through his own cultural training, Tharen knew meant camaraderie. "Captain Tharen, right? Been waiting to meet you," Conrad said with an infectious grin, shaking Tharen's hand firmly. Tharen resisted the urge to retract his hand immediately, unsure what to make of this man's strange, disarming attitude. Conrad then gestured toward the hulking Vrannak standing placidly at his side, towering over both of them. "This here's Ripper. She's my new friend," Conrad said, scratching behind the Vrannak's ears. The massive predator's frills vibrated in a way that indicated pleasure, and it leaned into the human's touch with something almost like affection. "Your friend," Tharen managed, his frills flushed with sheer disbelief. "That creature is a killing machine. She's a big sweetheart, that's what she is," Conrad interrupted, offering Ripper another treat, which the Vrannak accepted with a surprisingly gentle mouth. "Just took a little patience and some tasty snacks, that's all. It's not so different from back on Earth." "Earth," Tharen repeated, voice strained with disbelief. "You mean to say you do this often?" Conrad nodded earnestly, then gestured for Tharen to sit on a makeshift bench they'd set up. Another human joined them, Lieutenant Marcus, according to the tag on his chest. He was leaner than Conrad, with a quiet, watchful gaze. "Back on Earth, we've done this for centuries," Marcus explained, offering Tharen a cup of something hot that smelled oddly inviting. "We have a long history of taming and befriending creatures you probably think were dangerous. Bears, wolves, even big cats. Not all of them, of course, but enough to make it a habit. It's part of our nature." Tharen blinked, struggling to digest this. But why? Why risk your lives to tame creatures that pose a threat to you? Conrad shrugged. "Because most times they don't stay a threat. You give them a little kindness, a little patience, and they start to trust you. Hell, they even become protective. Right, Rip?" The Vrannak made a guttural noise of what Tharen could only interpret as agreement. He stared, his mind whirling with questions he couldn't quite put into words. The Vrali's interaction with their environment was one of distance, control, and strict boundaries. Predators remained predators, creatures to be avoided, respected, but never befriended. The notion that humans would willingly interact with such creatures went against every instinct in his body. As the days passed, Tharen observed the humans closely, both fascinated and horrified. It wasn't just the Vrannak that had been taken with them. Insects, small reptiles, and even a few winged creatures all native to Raijun had gathered around the humans, drawn to their gentle demeanor and endless supply of treats. There was a shift in the air, too. The humans were laughing, joking with each other, treating the harsh Rigelian landscape as though it were some welcoming place. Tharen couldn't help but be baffled by how easily they adapted. The air on Rigel 7 and dense and humid, the gravity a bit higher than standard, and yet the humans had integrated almost seamlessly. One evening, Conrad invited Tharen to join them around a campfire. The flames flickered against the faces of the humans as they recounted stories of their planet, of creatures called dogs that had evolved alongside their ancestors, of something called a house cat that humans cherished despite its aloofness and hidden claws. Conrad leaned back, crossing his arms with a grin as he added, "We're not just taming them, you know. They tame us too, in a way." Tharen tilted his head, frills twitching in curiosity. "What do you mean?" "Animals, especially the ones that could be dangerous, teach us a lot," Conrad explained, scratching at his scruffy beard. "Respect, patience, empathy. You can't tame something if you don't understand it, and understanding takes time." For the first time, Tharen saw a depth in the humans he hadn't noticed before. It was as if they saw a piece of themselves in every creature they met, no matter how dangerous or alien. They didn't want control or dominance, they wanted connection. It was an outlook he'd never considered, and it made him uncomfortable. The next morning, Tharen received an urgent transmission from Vralian High Command. They were growing increasingly nervous about the humans' interactions with the Vrannak and had ordered him to take action. When Tharen relayed the message to Conrad, the human simply smiled, his eyes shining with quiet determination. "I guess we've got more work to do then," Conrad said, undeterred. And so, over the next several weeks, Tharen found himself roped into the humans' strange, audacious mission. They taught him how to approach a Vrannak, how to move slowly and without fear, to show a creature that he wasn't a threat. Conrad instructed him to hold out treats with an open palm, to let the creature come to him. At first, every instinct in Theron's body screamed at him to run, to maintain a distance, but the humans encouraged him with their easy smiles and words of reassurance. One day, as he held out a treat for a young Vrannak pup, he felt a gentle tug at his palm. The creature's serrated tongue brushed his fingers, its hot breath tickling his arm as it nuzzled closer, taking the treat with an almost delicate nibble. Theron's heart thundered, but he stayed still, letting the creature sniff him, its golden eyes soft and curious. "You're doing great, Tharen," Marcus said, clapping him on the back. "You're one of us now." The days passed, and Tharen found himself becoming more relaxed, his fear of the Vrannak transforming into something